We are at the final stretch of election season, under 30 days, and we've seen Donald Trump in the past 48 hours in Juneau, Wisconsin, in Butler, Pennsylvania, spreading lies that kill, lies about things that people never would politicize before, lying about the hurricane response, just providing disinformation that actually is likely killing people. He went from lying about people or migrants eating cats and dogs, and now saying that all of the relief that should be going to victims and affected areas by the hurricane are going to migrants. This is, let's just face it, the type of campaign that like Hitler would be running. And I don't know how else to describe what it is that we watched in Wisconsin and Butler, Pennsylvania, and that we're seeing every single day, propped up by the same machinery that we saw in like Nazi Germany, propaganda media, oligarchs like Elon Musk, who are saying that they're going to go to jail likely for all of the other stuff they've been involved in if they can't prop up Donald Trump as their Vladimir Putin. I just want to cover it. I just want to show you what it is that is being said at these events. And I want to then also talk about what's actually going on in the country. I mean, all of the economic metrics right now that you would normally base, like, is America doing well, are doing great. Like America right now, whether you're looking at the stock market, whether you're looking at wages, whether you're comparing the way America handled inflation to any other G7 nation, bringing it under control, whether you want to talk about the interest rate cuts recently, whether you want to talk about drilling, where there's more drilling now than ever before, every single metric right now. I want to talk about unemployment being low, the record-breaking jobs reports that keep coming out over and over again. But there's also this deluge of disinformation, and it's so important that responsible media do what the Fourth Estate was supposed to do. Call it out. Let people know what's going on. You can decide for yourself. I'm Ben Meiselas. This is the MeidasTouch Podcast. We're going to get right into it right away. Brett, Jordy, how are you?
Let's do it. I'm doing great, Ben. It's great to see you here. I know folks are, you've still been cooking videos and stuff, but I know folks understand that you are a very busy man, and I know they're always very happy to see your face and the just the kind words from everybody in the community that I see every day warms my heart. I know that you're seeing it as well, so it's great to have you here. Jordy, what's new?
Absolutely, big bros. Can't wait for the show. Ben, great to have you on this episode. Let's dive into it, Ben. Where do you want to start today?
Let's just talk about this bizarre event that took place over the weekend. I mean, here's Donald Trump once again getting swarmed by flies. This is part of his speeches now. Now, I don't know if he's actually seeing, I don't know if these flies are actually real and they're attracted to him because they're attracted to feces and rotting and decaying meat, or if he, in his own kind of paranoid delusions, is seeing flies around him. But he does this in like all of his speeches now. Let me show you this. Let's play it.
A coal plant a week. I don't like flies. Get out of here, fly. Never been a big fan of flies. You don't mind my bringing that up, do you? Anyway, this is a very aggressive sucker. That is, this one in particular is very aggressive. Like, I'm going to be aggressive for our country. You can probably say that. If this can.
And do we have the montage, Brett, of just showing you that this happens kind of quite frequently? I think we created a massage on our
massage. Yeah, it's a nice
montage. Let me play it for you. Here,
it's a good massage.
And all of New England, actually, he's a disaster. He's radical left. RFK Jr. is radical left. It reminds me of this fly that's driving me crazy up here. This fly is brutal. I don't like flies. Oh, there's a fly. Oh, I wonder where the fly came from. See, 2 years ago, I wouldn't have had a fly up here. You're changing rapidly, but we can't take it any longer. We can't take it any longer. A coal plant a week. I don't like flies. Get out of here, fly. Never been a big fan of flies. You don't mind my bringing that up, do you? Anyway, this is a very aggressive sucker. That is this one.
Yeah, I mean, we could show you more of that, but that happens in like every one of his speeches. Then you have the people laughing. Can we just show what some of these Trump supporters look like who were there in Butler and in Juneau, just so you can take a look at just like the crowd. This is how they dress up. They just dress up in all of the Trump gear. They wear the bandages on their ear because Donald Trump said that he was hit in his lobe by a AR-15 bullet that healed very quickly, miraculously healed. Here's the January 6th prisoner, Mickey Olson right there. And she charged the Capitol that this is how she dresses, and she spews all this QAnon nonsense, and just a bunch of other people dressed in this bizarre Donald Trump gear, and they're the ones who are like laughing at this. And one of the things I've been noticing too, and for those like, yeah, here's the types of cardboard cutouts of Donald Trump that they bring to the events. It's Donald Trump as an AI image with a six-pack, and part of the conspiracy that Donald Trump is saving the cats that migrants are eating. And so it's a picture of Donald Trump with six-pack abs saying defender of pets. And it's all part of that grift culture that takes place before these events. And for those who are watching on YouTube, it's obviously you wouldn't be able to see it on audio. One of the things I was noticing about this recent rally in Juneau, Wisconsin in particular too, is as Donald Trump's accelerated his hateful rhetoric, the people in the audience also, you see it on their faces and their reactions, and just overall how they're behaving and being riled up into this frenzy as well. This is Donald Trump in that Juneau, Wisconsin event from this weekend. Here he says that the reason that he's not going on 60 Minutes is that they were mean to him. On the other hand, Vice President Kamala Harris did an interview with 60 Minutes, and it was they give her tough interviews. Donald Trump's refusing to do it. Remember the last one he did, he like walked out and he tried to pretend that his healthcare plan was a big binder, but it actually turned out that it was like all blank pages, and he like stormed off and he's like, I'm not going to do it because they're mean to me. Here, play this clip.
Oh, it's terrible. So we're waiting for an apology. They want to do it again. I'll do it again, but they got to don't you think I should make them apologize?
I mean, one of the things there too is just like, how do people see someone so pathetic who just goes on a stage and whines the entire time, just whines over and over again, who's too scared to debate Vice President Kamala Harris again? And he goes, because it was rigged. They all went after me. It was a 3-on-1. It was so unfair. Pity is me. Anyway, watch Donald Trump. This is part of his speech in Juneau, Wisconsin. He wants to show the people in Juneau what the crowd size looked like in Butler, Pennsylvania from the day before. And then Donald Trump complains when his staff and his handlers put up the wrong picture, and then he calls them stupid. Here, watch this.
And we have something to show you the kind of crowd we had last night. It was really something special. So let's put it up if we can. That was unbelievable. They used the wrong picture. It's the same picture, but they have the two side things. It's so stupid. But that's what we have that every once in a while, right?
So calling his own staff, they're stupid. And then people in the crowd are laughing at that. I mean, if you want to go and watch the full speeches and you're like, oh, you're just selectively cutting. I could go on and on with this stuff. And this is 95% of it. There's like 5% of it where he'll like go through his catchphrases. He'll go, we're going to make you healthier again. We're going to make you prouder again. We're going to make America stronger again. And by the way, when the corporate media covers the events, that's the portion that because I've been watching, when I was in the hospital the other week, I was watching all of this over and over and over again. And you would see that's like the portion that they clip. But here he is right here. He's reading from a teleprompter and bragging about not reading from a teleprompter. Here, play this clip.
To be able to have a mind where you can actually speak without a teleprompter. And isn't it nice to have a president that can speak without a teleprompter? Isn't that nice? It's sort of nice. But you lose them all the time.
Then he talks about former President Barack Obama. Play this clip.
See, under a man named Barack Hussein Obama. Remember Rush Limbaugh? Remember Rush Limbaugh? Rush Limbaugh would go, Barack Hussein Obama. We miss Rush. We need Rush. Oh, we miss Rush. But they were killing.
I mean, what is it that's even going on here? I mean, as we watch it, here he is saying that Americans who don't support him are more dangerous than dictators like Vladimir Putin. Play it.
Lots of things. And by the way, the enemy from within, the crazy lunatics that we have, the fascists, the Marxists, the communists, the people that we have that are actually running the country, not her. She's not running it, and Biden's not running it either, and you all know that. Those people are more dangerous, the enemy from within, than Russia and China and other people.
You know, and this is why you have to take this stuff seriously. When he's talking about the enemy from within, and then when you realize, too, that when he's talking about mass deportations, just listen to what Lara Trump was also saying over the weekend. I'm not going to play the clip, but Lara Trump said people who that Donald Trump deems as illegal citizens is who he's going to go after. It's not just going after people who are here without their papers. He's going to go after anybody he doesn't like. Isn't it just, Brett, Jordy, like, isn't it so obvious? And one of the frustrating parts about watching this all is, you know, and I'm glad that our network is like the most watched network on all of YouTube, kind of period, including other things other than politics. But honestly, sometimes it feels a little bit like we're on this island alone together with the Midas Mighty in terms of media. That's like, don't you see, like, can't you see what it is that he's doing? There's no both sides to this. He's laying out the plan like Hitler, like he's saying the things that Hitler would say before getting into power, right before our very eyes. And then he's just doing a bunch of even like things that are so stupid and dangerous and that look so, I don't want to say mentally ill and give him a break by saying that, oh, it's mental, but like malignant narcissist. He's out there yelling at his people, my people are stupid. And the crowd's like, yeah. I'm like, your speeches, you talking about your staff is stupid. You're speaking in front of people who are purportedly wearing shirts saying that they're union workers, and you're bragging about how you're going to take away their overtime pay and how you hate making overtime payments. And the people who are supposed to be union workers are clapping that their overtime and their wages are being decreased. And I'm thinking to myself, there's real sickness going on in this. Like, it's a sad thing to see the sickness in the country right now, and very few other media outlets calling it out.
Yeah, and I always feel like the kind of corporate media channels are always they never catch up fully, but they're always probably at least 6 to 12 months kind of behind. Like, they'll do the story on people leaving Trump's, rallies and stuff. And they'll be like, yeah, well, we've been covering that for a very long time. Or like the New York Times just now does a piece that Donald Trump is unfit and they endorse, Kamala Harris. And it's like, yeah, we've been saying this for months. You were too busy attacking Joe Biden at the time when it was very important for you to be raising these issues. I had a friend the other day, friends like to check in with me, check my temperature with the election. So I had a friend check in and he said, well, what's the difference right now that you feel between this election and the last election? I said, I feel optimistic about this election. But if there's one difference I could say that there is, it's that the level of lying and disinformation has ramped up to levels that we couldn't even have imagined a few years ago. Like, when we began this, the kind of only real indication of all this was kind of the QAnon stuff that was going around. Then it was viewed rightfully as a fringe movement back then that Donald Trump was cultivating. Now that is really like the mainstream of the Republican Party. Everything is a conspiracy theory with these people. Everything is a lie. Everything is just like the most deranged, to me, the most obvious conspiracy theories, but I think they're fooling a lot of people. I think there's a lot of foreign interference and bots at work right here, but you see it with every single story every single day. And they're the same cast of characters, many, by the way, whom were caught up in that Russian operation that the DOJ is prosecuting. But you see these people spreading these lies, whether it's about Hurricane Irene, whether it's about the next hurricane that's coming, whether it's about migrants eating cats and dogs. It's every day there is something that is the complete opposite of the truth. And it goes incredibly viral on the internet super quickly. It's pushed out there, thanks to people like Trump and Elon Musk and all of these kind of influencer types. And the problem is that stuff breaks through to people. And so it's that element, which is, it existed then, don't get me wrong, but it's on a whole other level right now, what we're seeing. And I just think the whole thing is just incredibly disgraceful. And I feel like we'll get into the disaster, relief soon and all of that. But especially doing this like within a crisis scenario, to me, is as low as you could get. Like, we've never, ever, ever as a country in the middle of disasters like this tried to politicize something in this way. If somebody did a bad job, they'd rightfully be criticized. That's a different story, but they wouldn't make up facts in order to make somebody look bad in this way. And right now, Donald Trump and all these MAGA Republicans who are joining him are putting people's lives at risk with these lies, whether it's the Haitian migrants who have to worry about their kids leaving the house because they're getting attacked by people, or whether, these buildings, these schools, these courthouses, these hospitals have to be put on lockdown due to threats because of Donald Trump. Like, to me, like, this is how bad Donald Trump is. This is how bad he is. You could take away every terrible thing about Trump that we've known up until these past few weeks. Like, take away the sexual assault, the criminal convictions, the insurrection, his COVID response, him crashing the economy. Like, you could take away literally all the horrific things. These past 2 weeks of him lying about these Haitian migrants and lying about the storm effort and endangering people's lives, to me, like that alone would be enough before he even got into all that other stuff. It's just so disgraceful, Jordy.
Absolutely. And that's my biggest caution to the Midas Mighty out there as well, is like, we're less than 30 days out now till the election, and their efforts, the MAGA efforts, the right-wing echo chamber efforts to spread the disinformation, it's on a whole nother level. And I know we're all seeing it. Shoot, there are push notifications that Elon sends from Twitter or X or whatever, that he sends to people's phones from all of those disinformation accounts that I'm sure all of you are aware of, as if it's real news. And so my big caution for you guys out there is just buckle up, stay the course. We know what we're up against. It's disinformation after disinformation, and it's meant to exhaust you, and it's meant to get you disenchanted. It's meant to upset you in a way that maybe you won't vote, but don't do that. Right? Because we know what we have to do in November, and we have to defeat this MAGA madness.
I'll show you some evidence right here. So I have an account here that I don't use, never tweets, never anything. It's just like a lurking account, not just logged in, doesn't follow anybody, nothing. And this is, I track the notifications I get because I'm curious, what's he sending out to kind of people who aren't politically astute or involved. And I got this post, I'm not sure if you could see it, from End Wokeness. Kamala is collapsing before our eyes. Every post I get that is a push notification sent from Elon on this account specifically, which is a apolitical account that doesn't follow anybody, is always something extremely anti-Kamala, always something extremely anti-democracy, sometimes literal QAnon, like the world is about to end sort of push notifications. A lot of stuff about the Haitians eating the Haitian migrants eating cats and dogs. Like, every lie is sent directly to people's phones. And if I know that's happening with mine, I know that is happening with probably like millions of people out there. And, I don't think our brains are prepared for this, right? And we're in this world, so we're able to kind of understand it when we see it, that these are all kind of these psyops, like the New York Post, like that whole paper is like just a bunch of BS, right? All these Murdoch operations, just a bunch of BS. But to the casual observer, I'm not quite sure they're fully aware. So what I always urge everybody to do is just like, everybody needs to remain vigilant about what you see. And if you see something that looks a little off, think, is this AI? Is this, is there an agenda behind this? Because quite often, most of the time, I think when that's going off in your brain, it's because there is. Ben?
I'll give you kind of a personal story and connect this all together. So since I started representing Colin Kaepernick back in 2016, 2017, before I started MeidasTouch, and given his whole ordeal, I'll get back to that in just a moment. I don't really watch football as much as I used to. I don't watch the NFL. I watch a lot of college football, but I don't watch the NFL. So last night there was a football game, right, between the Cowboys and the Steelers, and the Cowboys ended up winning that game, right, 2017. It was a close game, an exciting game, but I wasn't really following it. And I've been so busy with the baby and life, and so I'm not following it, right? So there was an objective reality of the game, right? The Cowboys won 20-17. But if a news channel told me that actually it was the Steelers that won 57-7 and it wasn't close, and it was called a news channel and it was presented like a news channel, and I was flipping through the channels to get my data, and I'm so busy that I'm not following everything, why wouldn't I believe that that could actually be the outcome if a news channel that looks like a news, has all the drapings of a news and the trappings of a news, is ultimately telling me that that's what the outcome is? And then then what happened if the Pittsburgh Steelers said, we didn't lose, we actually won? And what if there was a whole set of referees who were like, actually, that's not what happened. I mean, it looks like the Steelers were actually the winners of the game. And the Cowboys like, we put up more points right now. In the past, we would have our politics would be tough. It would be vicious, right? It would be Cowboys v. Steelers, but we would agree that these were the sets of rules, in essence, that we played by. And you wouldn't politicize overseas tragedies. You wouldn't politicize natural disasters. We'd come together as a nation. You come together as a nation during 9/11. We rallied together. We try to come up with solutions. It's not like something that gets immediately politicized and fingers pointed and people try to win political games. You don't politicize like the troops. You don't go like Donald Trump does and try to stand on graves and grave dance to try. Like, you just don't do these things. Now, going back to the Kaepernick example, one of the things that Donald Trump did as he was testing out his authoritarianism was he went after Colin Kaepernick as an avatar and proxy and culture war, because Donald Trump would tell everybody that this was a winning issue for him. That if you went after Colin Kaepernick, that's a winning issue. He would see it, and it was a winning issue because it would divide the country. And so he would look at these issues that divide. Some of them percolate kind of naturally. Some of them are studied by Russia and other kind of ops and see where are these lines that are drawn. So issues over trans rights and issues over bathrooms and issues like this and especially immigration. You find these points to divide the country, and Trump looks at every issue as not what saves lives, how do we bring people together? It's what's a winning issue for me. And when it comes to the biggest tragedies, frankly, it's easy for leaders to exploit people in tragedies. If you think about it, when are people most vulnerable from con artists and scammers, right? It's often, first off, like elderly people are often very susceptible to scams quite frequently. And also people who experience tragedy are the ones who are often hit right away by con artists because they're vulnerable. And it's easy to prey on people who are very vulnerable and scared and looking for answers. Well, on a broader level, Fox and the propaganda networks have kept people scared and in fear for years and decades now, to be in this constant state where they're vulnerable to the attack from now the MAGAs. They were trying to do with the Tea Party, but MAGA fully infiltrated it to exploit people's weaknesses. But in a tragedy like this now, Donald Trump sees this as, this is a winning issue for me. I'm just going to go and say, even though it's a total lie, even though the Republican governors in affected areas all said that it's a lie and they are getting the FEMA relief that they requested and more, let's just go and say it. Let's just go and say it. and I'll say it over and over again, and then the media will report it. This is Donald Trump's perspective and the Republican perspective, or the MAGA perspective. The Democrats are saying that Donald Trump is lying, but it's reported as just, here's what one side says, here's what the other says. And then, Brett, to your point, then it's pushed over and over again to people in that way. And that's the anatomy of how this is done. I want to talk more about that, but we got to take our first quick break of the show.
What does the future hold for business? Ask 9 experts and you'll get 10 answers. Bull market, bear market. Will rates rise or fall? Will inflation go up or down? Can someone please invent a crystal ball? Until then, over 40,000 businesses have future-proofed their business with NetSuite by Oracle, the #1 cloud ERP, bringing accounting, financial management, inventory, HR into one fluid platform. With one unified business management suite, there's one source of truth giving you the visibility and control you need to make quick decisions. With real-time insights and forecasting, you're peering into the future with actionable data. When you're closing the books in days, not weeks, you're spending less time looking backwards and more time looking on what's next. I use this and you should too. Whether your company is earning millions or even hundreds of millions, NetSuite helps you respond to immediate challenges and seize your biggest opportunities. Speaking of opportunities, download the CFO's Guide to AI and Machine Learning at netsuite.com/Meidas. This guide is free to you at netsuite.com/Meidas. netsuite.com/MEIDAS.
Flavored air is not like vaping. If vapor was compared to sticky soda, fume cores are closer to herbal teas. Fume has lots of delicious flavors to choose from, like crisp mint, orange vanilla, and new peach blush. With flavored air, you can satisfy your oral fixation through a passive diffusion system that utilizes no electronics, no vapor, no combustion. Fume draws flavor to your mouth and fills the void ditching a bad habit can leave. Fume is not a vape, and there's no nicotine, and it's not addictive. It's very important. Also, Fume has non-toxic flavors. It's truly a guilt-free alternative to your bad habit. The look and feel of Fume is awesome. The design is super high quality. Fume continuously invests in third-party studies to ensure the safety of their products and is backed by doctors in the US. Personally, my favorite flavor is the orange vanilla. I love the way it tastes. I'm truly a huge fan of Fume. So many listeners of this program have told me they've quit their bad habits with Fume, and I know it can do the same for you. Fume has served over 300,000 customers, and you can be the next success story. For a limited time, use our code Meidas to get a free gift with your journey pack. So head to tryfume.com. That's tryfum.com, tryfume.com, and use the code Meidas, MEIDAS, or scan the QR code on screen to get a free gift with your order today. Tryfume.com, use the code Meidas. All right, are you ready for this fact? Traditional bed sheets can harbor more bacteria than a toilet seat. It can lead to acne, allergies, and stuffy noses. It's just gross. Miracle Made, however, offers a whole line of self-cleaning antibacterial bedding, such as sheets, pillowcases, and comforters that prevent up to 99.7% of bacteria growth and require up to 3 times less laundry. It's why I use Miracle Made on my bedding. Using silver-infused fabrics inspired by NASA, Miracle Made sheets are thermoregulating and designed to keep you at the perfect temperature all night long, no matter the weather, so you get a better sleep every single night. It's why I love Miracle Sheets. Miracle Sheets are luxuriously comfortable without the high price tag of other luxury brands and feel as nice, if not nicer, than sheets used by some 5-star hotels. So go to trymiracle.com/Meidas. Trymiracle.com/Meidas and try Miracle Made sheets today. And whether you're buying them for yourself or as a gift for a loved one, if you order today, you can save up to 40%. And if you use our promo code Meidas at checkout, you'll get 3 free towels and save an extra 20%. Miracle is so confident in their product, it's backed by a 30-day money-back guarantee. So if you aren't 100% satisfied, you'll get a full refund. Upgrade your sleep with Miracle Made. Go to trymiracle.com/Meidas and use the code Meidas to claim your free 3-piece towel set and save over 40% off. Again, that's trymiracle.com/Meidas to treat yourself. Thank you, Miracle Made, for sponsoring this episode.
Shout out to our wonderful sponsors. Links in description of both the YouTube and the audio. Click them. Use our codes. Let them know we sent you. I only hear great things about them from the audience, so please check it out. Ben.
One of the things that Donald Trump's been doing at these speeches as well is he constantly talks about how good looking he is. First off, absolutely not. Second off, again, what in the world is this? You may recall a few weeks back, he was like, and I'm so much better looking than Vice President Kamala Harris. He goes, Kamala, I'm better looking than Kamala. He would say that over and over again. He used to frequently talk about, he'd say that he's got a better body than Joe Biden. And say, why is Joe Biden at the beach? Joe, why are you at the beach?
Just a big announcement.
Should I take off my shirt right now? And it's like, what in the world are you even doing? And then he claims at this speech that because Ronnie Jackson, who's the member of the MAGA member of Congress who got demoted, is not even, I think, licensed anymore, tells Donald Trump that he's got a better body and physique than Obama. And then Donald Trump talks about this in the speech. And other than MeidasTouch Network and Mockler and, maybe Brian Tyler Cohen and Mueller, Luke Beasley, a handful of like independent, that's not enough. Could you imagine if Vice President Kamala Harris was like, everybody, I want you to know, we're going to move forward. I'm better looking than Donald Trump. I am prettier. Then, I'd be like, what the heck is, right? Would you agree with me that if Vice President Kamala Harris in her speech started talking about how attractive she is, that we'd all be like, okay, done, right? Done. She must be having a mental breakdown and all of it. But no, this doesn't even get picked up anywhere other than here, play this clip.
In the White House, the press, the fake news media said, who is the most? He was the doctor for Obama, Bush, and Trump. That's pretty good, right? White House doctor for the three of us. He said, the press, who is the healthiest of the three? He said, definitely it's Donald Trump. There's not even a contest. And I love that guy. When he said that, JD, when he said that, I said, I like this guy. So then he said, sir, he was leaving the White House. He said, I'd love to run for Congress. And he ran against 28 people. They were all running for the Republican primary because whoever won that primary is going to win. I think it's a Trump plus 48. Whoever wins gets 48 point start. And not only did he win, he won easily. And now he's one of the most popular people in Congress and one of the most talented, maybe more importantly. Ronnie Jackson. Ronnie.
There's a lot to unpack there. Obviously, the ridiculous statement that he made. You see a picture of former President Obama and Donald Trump next to each other, and you can just take a look at what they respectively look like. But there's the photo right there. For those audio listeners, you have Obama and next to Donald Trump. But it also, to me, shows how easy it is to play Donald Trump, right? If you're Viktor Orban, if you are Vladimir Putin, right? All you do is you tell him you are very healthy, sir. Sir, you are great looking. And you can manipulate the guy so easy. And you can see there Donald Trump in a very unself-aware way, but it's all just spewing nonsense. You see Ronnie Jackson gets demoted. He's like, how do I become in Congress? I'm just going to go tell Donald Trump because I had this position of power, everything he wants to hear about his body. Then I'm going to go get his endorsement. And then he'll say how great I am. And then he'll say I'm the greatest congressman ever. But he's like not even close to being, he's like the worst congressman ever, who does literally nothing. But you see how even in that statement, you can unpack the varying layers of manipulation that Donald Trump's essentially admitting to there. And then the most obvious, just like what the heck moment is even going on. And then Elon Musk showed up and started like jumping around. Play this clip.
Come here. Take over, Elon. Yes, take over.
Rocket company is the only reason we can now send American astronauts into space. Take over, Elon. Yes,
Wow. But here's the thing. So we were speaking with Adam Mockler, who's been attending. Mockler is great. Mockler is the future of MeidasTouch. So shout out to Mockler. I just want to say this at the outset. It's been a real privilege working with Adam Mockler and seeing the rapid growth of his channel, because he's an absolute superstar. So he was talking with us, though, about this event that he was going to. He was going to the Butler, Pennsylvania event, and he was going to speak with the Trump supporters. And he was just asking us, like, what types of questions do you think that I should ask them? And we'll roll out a more extensive version of this. But the question that I've always had, and I've always talked to Brett and Jordy about this, privately, but I said, and I've always wanted to conduct a poll on this. I never really was able to kind of put that together, but I think I know the answer no matter what. Is, if you were to ask a MAGA supporter, would they rather vote for Vladimir Putin or Biden, or Vladimir Putin and Kamala Harris? And frankly, if you were to ask Donald Trump that question, or questions like that, who would you rather have in charge of America, Putin, or would you rather have Biden? Who would you rather have in charge, Kim Jong-un or Biden or Harris? Like, what would they say? And I think if you were to ask MAGA people, they would all be, I bet you it would be about 85 to 90% would say Vladimir Putin. So Mockler went out there, and I wanted to test the theory about, let's take the propaganda to the fullest extent, right? Let's get to the most raw element of it. And let me show you this. This is just an example. And we're going to be rolling out with Mockler more clips like this, but let's play it.
If you had to choose in November between Kamala Harris and Vladimir Putin, who do you vote for?
I would not vote for Kamala.
So you're abstaining? Or would you cast a ballot for the big V man?
That's a tough one. That really is a tough one.
Really?
That's a tough one for me. I would never, ever in a million years vote for Kamala.
Okay, what if it's
I might not vote at all then.
What if it's Kamala versus Kim Jong-un?
I probably wouldn't vote.
Wouldn't vote?
No.
So what if Kim Jong-un is ahead in the polls and you could be the tie-breaking vote and you could make sure that an American president wins, not Kim Jong or Vladimir Putin? Would you be that tie-breaking vote, or would you let Kim Jong-un get enough power?
I would not vote for
You wouldn't vote?
No, I would not vote for Harris.
You'd rather have Kim Jong-un and Vladimir Putin. And you will not be shocked what other people answered that question as, and we will be sharing that and rolling that out. But Brett and Jordy, I mean, they would rather have Putin lead the country at this point. And in essence, they are. I mean, right? I mean, Trump's vision is to basically be like Viktor Orban, right? And Viktor Orban is Vladimir Putin's plaything. And that's what Donald Trump wants to be. Like, he's like, and they're so great, right? Right. The way Donald Trump sells these like trinkets, right? Like, he's selling whether it's like the coins or the Trump money, or selling the NFTs or the Bibles. We'll talk about the Bible scam in a little bit because it has a whole new wrinkle on it. But like, that's how he thinks, right? Like, he'll promise the moon, but try to sell you a $60 Bible, right? So when he's in Butler, he'll go, we're going to Mars. He'll brand it. We're doing the Space Force. But he's unable to execute anything because he's too busy showing people photographs of what his crowds look like. Okay. And again, like, he said he would do infrastructure. He didn't do infrastructure at all. He said he was going to have a health care plan, a big one, a beautiful one that would be better than Obamacare. And then he talks about concepts of a plan 9 years later that he had some concepts. I mean, and again, this isn't funny. Like, this is people's lives who depend on healthcare, and you're going to take away Obamacare, the Affordable Care Act, from people, and you don't even have a substitute of it. Setting aside your politics, this man is, if you even want to call him that, is dangerous. He's stupid. He's sloppy. There is no policy there at all. It's just random rambling. On the other hand, can I just show some clips of Vice President Kamala Harris for a moment, Brett? I know you may want to comment on that, though.
Well, I really just can't get over the fact, and I'll pull up this image one more time that we pulled up before. This is the image of Elon Musk jumping around on stage with Donald Trump as Donald Trump looks on. But I really can't. Yeah, I mean, come on. I mean, this says so. This picture will have, depending on the outcome of the election, it could have a multitude of historical contexts, I think. But I just can't get over the fact that we're at a place where you have all of these Trump voters. All they try to go around acting like they try to go around and act like they are kind of anti-establishment, that they're alternative, that Donald Trump is the guy to take on the establishment. And they literally could not be voting more for the literal embodiment of the establishment, of the shameless, greedy billionaires who they act like they are against. And it's just amazing to me how these billionaires like Donald Trump and Elon Musk have been so successful in how they've been able to manipulate these people into supporting their agenda, which cannot be further apart from what is good for like the people who are actually voting for them. It's getting them to go completely against their own interests so that Elon Musk could have a few more $1 billion, or that Donald Trump could get out of prison, or whatever it is. And it's just mind-blowing to me that these are the people that those supporters, like the one who Adam Mockler was interviewing, are worshiping. Like people who, and you know, when you ask these people about a lot of the issues, one of the amazing things are they rely on a lot of the programs that Kamala Harris, is the person who's going to protect. These are people who rely on Social Security. These are people who rely on Medicare. These are people who rely on our healthcare system, and probably want, quite frankly, the government to be able to do more. Like, what's the common refrain always? Like that they always, I can't believe we're sending this money to Ukraine, but we only have X amount of dollars for a hurricane. Well, we could actually be doing a lot more there, right? And by the way, they always use like phony numbers and don't tell the whole picture of the recovery, but we could always be doing more there. But anytime there is an opportunity for Republicans in Congress to vote to pass bills or to create bills that actually help the American people, provide more of these necessary services that it seems like a lot of these Trump voters beg for, they're always the arsonists who burn everything down and don't pass anything. And then they try to act like, oh, look what the government's doing. You're the government at the end of the day. So move your ass, get back to work, and actually do things for the American people.
Absolutely. And Brett, it shows you just how strong that propaganda force truly is, that you have folks out there in Butler, Pennsylvania. Butler's not too far from me, folks. I see these people all the time who are willing to vote against their own best interests because of the programming that has just been instilled in them for years. Right? That's the Fox propaganda machine at work. That's the OAN. That's all of it in one. That's the Elon Musk Twitter algorithm. It's brain rot that we've never seen in this country, that has such control over such a large portion. And Ben, I don't know what comes after this election, but there has to be something to help
with
people
all the AI
see
and
the
stuff,
light eventually, right?
And sorry to interrupt Ben here, but it's like like the body, like, your body like produces antibodies that go after like antigens when you're sick. Like if you're getting sick, like that's like kind of what this propaganda network does of like Fox and the New York Post and Elon Musk and stuff. The second it identifies something that may damage their brand and their agenda, Donald Trump, they get into action. They spring into action like an antibody springs into action.
Yeah.
It's Call Her Daddy interview, right? Kamala Harris did this interview on the Call Her Daddy podcast, extremely popular podcast. I listened to it. It was great. I recommend you all listen to it. She spoke about like reproductive freedom, women's rights. She told a bit about her story growing up. I thought it was a really thoughtful conversation, and it reaches a wide audience, a very ideologically diverse audience. And so, of course, what do they have to do with that? New York Post has to run stories immediately because that's bad news for Trump, right? So they need to run stories immediately, backlash against Call Her Daddy interview back. And they take 6 tweets that they found and they try to create this story around it to push their propaganda. And they do that with everything. Yeah. Every single thing is a psychological operation. And unless you're kind of prepared to understand what's going on and even know oh, that's the New York Post. Oh, it's not the New York Post I grew up with. Even that's the New York Post that Rupert Murdoch bought back in the day. I suck. It's hard to identify these patterns and how much BS all of it is. But it's quite literally just a fire hose of lies nonstop injected into the populace.
I want to go back and give the example I gave after this next very quick break about Pittsburgh Steelers versus Dallas Cowboys one more time. And Jordy, you gave the reference because where Butler's located, somewhat near Pittsburgh, to talk about how we used to all agree that there would be an objective reality in politics, almost like a sports game, right? The Steelers lose, you may be a Steelers fan, that may bum you out, but you recognize it was a 20-17 game. That used to be American politics, right? You'd play hard, serious rivalries. Sometimes it would get dirty. Sometimes there would be cheap shots. There's a winner, there's a loser, you move on. That's changed. That's the unique moment, though. And now there isn't ESPN that's just saying, here's the game. Now there's all these other channels out there in the example that I'm giving of other channels presenting a different story that the Steelers actually won by a blowout. And you're like, that's not what happened. I was saying, yeah, it is. And in the example I gave, where corporate media is the ESPN in the example, now they're saying, we should also report, though, that there's another side here. And they're actually saying, even though you watched it, that here's who won this game. That's just not the way. That's not the way it's ever been done before. It's an issue. It's a problem. And so the question is, what do we do? And I'll answer that question after our last quick break of the show.
Let's face it, after a night with drinks, I don't bounce back the next day like I used to. Hey, I got to be honest with myself, right? It feels like I have to choose between having a great night or a great next day. That is until I found pre-alcohol. ZBiotics pre-alcohol probiotic drink is the world's first genetically engineered probiotic. It was invented by PhD scientists to tackle rough mornings after drinking. Here's how it works. When you drink, alcohol gets converted into a toxic byproduct in the gut. It's this byproduct, not dehydration, that's to blame for your rough next day. Pre-alcohol produces an enzyme to break this byproduct down. Just remember to make ZBiotics your first drink of the night. Drink responsibly, and you'll feel your best tomorrow. Every time I have pre-alcohol before drinks, I notice a difference the next day. For example, after a fun night out with friends at like a local bar or wherever we go, I could still get up the next morning and hit the gym. And I'll admit, I was skeptical at first, but I tried it at a dinner party with some friends. The next morning, I felt great, ready to tackle the day, ready to do more videos here at the MeidasTouch Network. I kept hearing about pre-alcohol and wondered what it was actually like. Now that I've tried it, I get the hype. Plus, with their GMO technology, ZBiotics is continuing to create probiotics that tackle the challenges of modern living. Go to zbiotics.com/Meidas to learn more and get 15% off your first order when you use code Meidas at checkout. ZBiotics is backed with a 100% money-back guarantee, so if you are unsatisfied for any reason, they'll refund your money, no questions asked. Remember to head to zbiotics.com/Meidas and use that code Meidas. It's MEIDAS at checkout for 15% off.
Hey everyone, as you know, I'm a dad. So let's talk about something that's really important that most people don't realize. Like, did you know there actually aren't any requirements for baby food companies to test their products for chemical contaminants? 93% of parents are concerned about the presence of toxic levels of heavy metals in baby food. And 95% of parents believe the US needs to raise its standards when it comes to baby food safety. There have been tons of headlines recently unveiling the lack of regulation on baby food in the US, while the European Union has extremely strict standards. Little Spoon, the company known for changing the game for baby, toddler, and big kid foods, is disrupting the baby food industry again with radical transparency when it comes to baby food. Little Spoon is the first and only food brand in the US to set strict limits for more than 500 toxins and contaminants based on the best in-class EU standards. And if their products don't meet these standards, they won't sell it. It's that simple. Peace of mind delivered. They surveyed 2,000 parents across the country so they could understand what parents are most concerned about and help provide peace of mind for their customers. And wow, did they deliver. Look, trust me, I use Little Spoon with Elijah all the time, my son, and he absolutely loves it. I know your kid will love it too. America has literally never seen baby food this transparent. You can see all of Little Spoon's baby food safety standards in detail and shop their products for babies, toddlers, and big kids on littlespoon.com. Get 30% off your first order if you go to littlespoon.com/Meidas and enter our code Meidas at checkout to save 30% off your first order. That's littlespoon.com/Meidas to save 30% off. Let's go. Shout out to our sponsors. Links in the description of both YouTube and the audio. Use our promo codes. And real quick, Little Spoon, guys, Elijah does love Little Spoon, and it makes my life so much easier. So I'm telling you, if you're in the market for something like Little Spoon, definitely check it out. Cannot speak more highly of it. Ben.
Yeah, I want to thank those pro-democracy sponsors. This show really can't happen without them. So, it's one of the ways we grow this platform. And I know there sometimes are a lot of commercials, but I know Jordy spends a lot of time finding products and services that you will all like, and it helps grow the show. So it has that added benefit right there. Okay, let me just show you an example of what I was referring to before we took that commercial break. A statement by Vice President Kamala Harris during a very serious time, obviously, the aftermath of the devastation of Hurricane Helene. We are facing this horrific Hurricane Milton that's approaching. And so there's a lot of accurate information that needs to get into the hands of people right now. By the way, it's why, we interviewed the FEMA spokesperson. We spent 20 minutes going over all the programs that are available. I didn't see any other corporate media do that. And we spent a lot of time doing that. But take a look at Vice President Kamala Harris's post right here. Here's what she says. I have been briefed on Hurricane Milton's expected impact and our administration's work to support Florida ahead of the storm's landfall. Today, President Biden approved an emergency declaration for the state to provide federal support of life-saving and emergency protective measures. Now, never in the past would this ever be politicized, right? The governor of the state would answer the call. They would want the resources, right? You have Ron DeSantis apparently ignoring Vice President Kamala Harris, not trying to help the people. I mean, what are you doing? Why? Why are you making that a political thing? And then immediately as she writes that, Donald Trump writes this, all caps. Donald Trump posts, the response to the hurricane by lying Kamala Harris is now rated the worst storm response in history. North Carolina, Georgia, Florida, and South Carolina, Tennessee, Alabama, and others will respond by voting for Trump. We will make America great again. I mean, he so obviously links it with the vote for Trump because I've just made up and lied that it's rated the worst storm response in history. In fact, what President Biden did is something that a lot of other people in that position would not have done. Like, for example, with Hurricane Helene, it was not necessarily obvious that the areas in North Carolina would get hit the way it did. But President Biden directed FEMA resources specifically there in an unlikely event that actually happened, that's the area that was going to get hit, wherein it could have been a much more significant disaster. There's video of Donald Trump when he was in office or disgracing the office where he didn't even know what it meant to be Category 5. And then, of course, he's like, what's Category 5? I've never heard that term before. I mean, never heard the term Category 5. And then remember, there was the time where he got the map of like projected hurricane paths and he drew it so that it changed the direction of it. And he acted like he knew where it was going, where it was not going.
He thought it was going to go to Alabama. He said it was going to go to Alabama. That was incorrect. And so instead of admitting that he was wrong and that it wasn't hitting Alabama, he himself or he had somebody draw with a Sharpie around the path to show that it might also hit around Alabama, like just deranged stuff. And by the way, that also, like, the weather service had to release a statement saying, no, that's false information. This is not going to hit Alabama. Like, they had to correct him. And then at the same time, they had to say, we're not issuing this because of anything Donald Trump said. We're just saying this just to give you the info, because like they were also afraid of like pissing off this madman. That's one of the problems of having somebody in charge who cannot tell the truth and refuses to address a crisis in the same way. We saw it with COVID. We saw it with his responses to natural disasters when he threw toilet paper at people. We saw it when he drew on the map. We saw it when he called a hurricane the wettest that has ever been from the standpoint of water or whatever he said. It was just time and time again a failure of leadership every single day.
Let me ask you this. If Barack Obama or Hillary Clinton were in office during COVID and handled it the way Donald Trump did, do you have any doubt in your mind that there would be criminal charges brought against them? And potentially they would even be serving life sentences for like negligent mass homicide for what they did if they did it that way. Like, do you have any doubt that that's likely what the outcome would have been if they behaved that way? And then similarly, ask yourself, do you think they would have behaved that way as Donald Trump did? Do you think that they would say, like a miracle, it's all going to go away? Do you think that they would be bragging about the stock market on days that preceded the biggest drops in history? Do you think that they would try to cover it up and say, don't do the testing? Or do you think they would have ordered the testing back in 2019? One of the things with COVID-19, why actually people were even a little bit confused about it, they're like, where's the 19? It was happening in 2020. No, it was happening in 19. I know that sounds obvious, but what someone in a leadership position would have done is in 19, you would have been relentlessly and ruthlessly communicating with people, not ruthlessly lying, right? You would send your best scientists to Wuhan. You would start immediately. You would be going through all of the iterations of, are lockdowns better? Or, should we have what's the right social distancing? Does this mask work? You would be testing that out. If the United States of America in normal leadership times, a year in advance, the vaccines would be ready to go. A year in advance, you would, because you would start the process at least, or you would at least recognize the threat. Remember, we were in April and Donald Trump was saying, like a miracle, this is all going to go away. It's going to go away. That's what he does about everything. He doesn't research. He doesn't look. He trusts his own malignant, narcissistic gut views, which are always wrong. And it results in killing people. And then, he could lead an insurrection. He could handle COVID, and the way he did, or not handle it at all. And then corporate media will just be like, yeah, but, the economy was doing a little bit good before COVID. Also, that's not even true. We were headed for a recession before COVID. His trade war with China was an absolute failure. He was running up the biggest debt in history, which he ended up doing. But even before COVID, but what about before COVID? Who talks about who looks at leadership and goes, what about the horrible event that they mismanaged? What happened before that? And then create a fake vision of what was happening before that too, when he was riding the coattails of Obama's economy. And right now, when you have all the objective data, go back to the example that I gave you of Cowboys versus Steelers. And in the example right now, who's the winning team? And Jordy, sorry, I'm going after your hometown team a lot of this episode, but it's like on every metric, the objective data, all of it is that President Biden not just has done a better job than Trump, but is supremely, it's not even a close call on these things, on every single metric. But then again, I think we also have to recognize that over the past several decades, through Republican policies, which, Brett, there's always that graph that I see, and former President Clinton talked about it at his convention speech. By the way, Hulk Hogan, who was the lead speaker in the Republican convention, went, "Oh yeah," and did not actually speak about anything of substance. But I remember, Jordy, when you showed me that NBC thing, and they were like, and Hulk Hogan gave a great speech at the Republican. One of the most violent.
Tom Lamas, man, we'll never forget the llama. We'll never forget him for that.
say it was one of the most inspiring moments that we've seen in the convention when Hulk Hogan ripped off his shirt and said, "Oh yeah, I think it was a message to the American people that we need to get the excitement." I'm like, what? He's ripped off. Hulk Hogan's ripping off his shirt at a political convention. What in the world are we even talking about?
I got to research that clip, Ben. I'm sorry, because it's etched into my brain. He looks deadpan to camera and he goes, "And Hulk Hogan gave one of the most incredibly passionate speeches I have ever seen."
While I do my rant,
what are you doing, man?
if you could try to find it while I'm doing
I'll look it up while you do.
Try to find that, Brett, and then try to find Hulk Hogan. But the graph that President Clinton, or former President Clinton, pulled up was like it's like 50 million jobs were created, right? And if you go through all of the Donald Trump lost jobs, just look at this graph right here. It's the craziest thing in the world. 98% of all jobs created since 1989 were created under Democratic administrations. Bush gained 1.4 million, HW gained 2.6 million, Trump lost 2.7 million, and then 50 million of the jobs were created under Democrats. You can't, and that's not some like, oh, how to snafu? How did that happen? No, it's because the Republicans come in with this trickle down scam that benefits the billionaires. I bet you if you looked at a graph like this and said the wealth of billionaires and used the same graph, you would probably see that same portion right there, or proportions of the billionaire wealth growth over the past several decades from Reagan to the present, because their view was always, let's figure out ways to get the CEOs and make the rich even richer. And then they claim, oh, but they're going to trickle it down to you, right? The breadcrumb theory. Give rich people so much more. Don't treat them fairly. Create a welfare system for billionaires. And that's the way they will trickle it down to the rest of the economy. And Democrats
and also take away essential services that people rely on to survive, and then do that under the guise of, look, we need to cut costs, we're being conservative. And then guess what? A crisis happens, a disaster hits, a hurricane strikes, and then they go, why doesn't FEMA have money for the next hurricane? Oh, it must be the illegals. They must be giving it to No, it's because the Republicans didn't vote for the additional funding because you were too good for it. And now all of you are begging for FEMA funding or accepting it happily. It's like the same thing over and over. It's the star of the beast. They take from everybody, and then they ultimately, shit hits the fan. They need to do something about it, and they start blaming the opposite party who is trying to be proactive. It's like when Trump ignored all the measures for a pandemic before the pandemic happened. It's like there's a reason why smart people think about these things in advance and write the playbooks and try to figure this stuff out. And then these MAGA people come in and they think that they could just throw it all out. Just, we don't need it whatsoever. And then ultimately we get in these situations. I mean, it's like clockwork. And then they're often every 2 to 4 years, because it's cyclical, they're able to convince people, look, things are going wrong when the Democrats are in charge, right? Like, things are going wrong, right? Right now, it's their obstruction that's causing things to go wrong. And then people vote this way and that way. And it just ping pongs every 2 years between control, and we can't get anything done. I like that's become our political process.
And that's the great point. That's become our political process. And all of the humanity has now been sucked out of politics with MAGA. And politics is purely a proxy at this point. It's just as used by the MAGA Republicans, it's a game. Donald Trump will go to any tragedy, no matter what it is, exploit it. He'll go there, create a PR, promise everything, never deliver, and then blame the other side for that, while the other side, the Democrats in this case, or the pro-democracy community, has to work to get the things actually done right here. So anyway, let me just show you here. So I talked about the Hulk Hogan clip. I think we found it. Let me just show you here. This is Ron Filipkowski posted this one. This was the main speaker before Donald Trump spoke at the Republican National Convention. Play it.
All you lowlifes, all you scumbags, all you drug dealers, and all you crooked politicians need to answer one question, brother. what you gonna do when Donald Trump and all the Trumpomaniacs run wild on you.
Okay, and now this is how it was covered by, I believe, NBC. Let's play it.
People like Hulk Hogan. Hulk Hogan gave what I would say is probably the best speech at this convention so far, and there have been speeches that have blown the roof off this place. People who love the conservative politics here, who love MAGA. Hogan came in here, he did something completely different. He also was just entertaining, right? He was funny, he made people laugh, and even if you don't care for the politics here, he might have entertained you. And on top of that,
Llamas. I'm never going to forget that.
In many ways, that is even more dangerous than Fox, right? Because and perhaps even more irresponsible, right? Like we cover every morning, like okay, here's Fox's next propaganda move, right? You have Jesse Waters will say, Governor Walz is not even a man. Can he even throw a baseball? Right? Then you'll have like Hannity threaten boycotts against networks that are mean to Donald. It's, you have Laura Ingraham behave the way she does. It's just a bunch of silliness and dangerous, and it impacts a lot of people. So I don't want to downplay it, right? But you can kind of assess it and diagnose it and say what it is, right? Like there it is. That's NBC right there. And they watched Hulk Hogan at a convention rip off his shirt, it's not in that clip, but another clip, and talk about he's going to beat you up if you don't support the MAGA train and all of this. And then they acted like that's business as usual in politics. And people who are watching that, who relied on the reputation of NBC and some of the anchors that may be good, see that and they could be persuaded that Trump exists in a normal political zeitgeist when he doesn't. And so the question then is what do you do? How do we combat this? Well, there's rapid response that we're doing on a daily basis right here on the MeidasTouch Network. And then there is a generational task that we all have to commit to. And we have to plan not just for 2024, right? We were building this machinery for years here at the MeidasTouch Network and adapting and changing and evolving and maturing, trying to be better, not always getting it right, but doing our best each and every day. But we have to also be thinking about 2028, 2032, 2040, 2060, and beyond. That's what we're trying to build here, a generational way of just getting truth, restoring humanity to politics, and letting people know that ultimately this is about you, and this is about your community, and this is about your family, and this is about your country, and these are the facts, and here they are. And, you're not going to come here and hear people shouting on our network. You're not going to see wagging fingers a lot. You're not going to. Maybe occasionally I'll wag it a few times, but you're not going to see that here. That's not what we do. You're going to hear calm, rational, thoughtful, lots of information, lots of facts. We're going to just deliver it each and every day, each and every single day. And that's what we have to commit to building together. And we're going to do everything we can to give the rapid response every day. We just created MeidasPlus.com. You should check it out. It's our new Substack, MeidasPlus.com. It's great. It's a way to have an ad-free experience. I know people love our website, Meidas News. Meidas Plus is the ad-free experience. Plus, Ron Filipkowski does a lot of like personalized content there. That's pretty cool. We're going to do patreon.com/MeidasTouch. We do the show. We do the after parties together. We can after parties, though, whatever you call them.
No, I like after parties. We could start calling them after parties.
Yeah, where we get to watch them together. We see them together. And then, our pro-democracy sponsors, and we're just going to build this, we're going to build this each and every day. That's what we're committing to do here on the MeidasTouch Network. And again, it's generational. When Fox was created, it was created in the 1970s when Roger Ailes created this memo of how to avoid having a situation where someone corrupt like Nixon gets held accountable. So they literally did a memo about building this. And then he met up with Murdoch and They joined forces and they built Fox over the course of the next few decades. And in the 1990s, it emerged to prominence, and it's become this force that's, I think, caused a great deal of harm to our country, I believe. And so I want to create the opposite of that together. We're all a part of this in this community. We'll build something that can combat it together each and every day. And that's what we're going to do here. So we'll be the solution. That's it. We can't rely on a superhero or, someone who jumps in and saves this. That's not the way it's going to work. What's going to work is we restore humanity to politics. We really focus on community. We recognize that joy and hope is more powerful than fear and hatred. And it's going to be a frustrating process together, but it's going to prevail. That I promise you. So hang in there over the next few weeks. Hang in there. We're in this together. We can lean on each other. And thank you all so much for all of your support. Thank you. And Brett, you're doing so good on those hot takes also. So I think you're really doing a great
Thanks there, Ben. I appreciate you. And appreciate everybody out there.
I got to run, obviously, take care of the baby. So I'm not going to be able to do the after show. So
Go do your thing, B.
I'll see you later. Jordy, take it away.
Shout out to the Midas Mighty.
The Midas Mighty standing strong against the fascists. We sing our song. We will get it right whenever.
It's Ken Harbaugh with the MeidasTouch Network. The film Against All Enemies, which I co-produced with Ben Meiselas and this network, has won awards around the world for its up-close portrayal of America's insurrectionist movement. It premieres in the U.S. on March 29th on Amazon and Apple TV. Go to againstalllenemiesfilm.com or click the link below. But don't just watch Against All Enemies. Tell your friends about it. It's one more way to hold accountable those who threaten our democracy. Thanks, Midas Mighty. Let's use our power well.